Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well this week. For this week's poem, the it's based off a prompt from the poetess Lyla Shields. It's from her list of prompts for the month of November. To find the fun book title and use that as inspiration. Sure enough, I was able to find a fun title of a book to use for inspiration for this poem. And it goes something like this. Only in Spain, the Atlantic Ocean meets the Mediterranean Sea. Only in Spain can you hear the sounds of Catalan, Galician, Euskadi and Castellano spoken in the same place. Only in Spain, every clap, stomp, and guitar strum will say more than words ever will. Only in Spain, the lines for a Gran Sorteo de la Navidad tickets snake around blocks. Only in Spain, hay dos horas horarios, Canarias y el peninsular. Only in Spain, at 10 p.m., the night is only getting started. Only in Spain, I speak Spanish and surprise myself. Only in Spain do I see myself staying beyond the departure date. So yes, this poem is based off the title of this book. It's Only in Spain by the author Nellie Bennett. It's a memoir she wrote. She lived in Sydney, Australia, but fell in love with flamenco to the point where she herself moved to Spain to study it further. And gets swept up in everything that's wonderful about Spain. From the scenery, the people, the food, and the vibe. And considering that by the time this gets posted tomorrow, it'll be 9 years since the departure date for the very first trip to Spain back in 2015. Yes, it's such a big deal to me that it feels like it's its own holiday unto itself. And yes, knowing me, considering how much Spain has come up in the last 9 years, like this poem could have and probably should have been a lot longer than it was. But this is what came out as I was thinking of the prompt. I came across this book back in while I was at my previous employer. It was a day where we closed up shop early, so I went into Manhattan instead of coming home. I ended up at the Barnes and Nobles on Fifth Avenue, and on that same day, I also bought my copy of James Michener's Iberia. And as I had that book in hand, I started going through the bookshelf, the travel aisle, and came across Only in Spain as well. And I ended up growing. I grew to enjoy it. It's just sort of like that. Sort of gives me inspiration for the inevitable move to Spain at some point in my lifetime, because I don't plan on staying in New York for the rest of my days. I do plan on, I do want to eventually live out my golden years on the Iberian peninsula. It's why it's come up so often, and why I visited Spain, Portugal, and France at least once. But there's something about Spain that captured my heart. That very first visit, that passion, that sense of joy, free from the hustle and bustle of New York City, that stayed with me and was all the motivation I needed to make the return trip the fall almost a year later, when I started from Barcelona and ended up in Madrid. And I also made the promise to myself at the end of the very first trip, as I'm sitting on the flight home from Madrid, that I would be back by the time 40 came around. If everything if I'm still healthy enough, if everything's still on the upswing at this time next year, more than likely I will be back in Spain to celebrate 40 and to begin the next decade of my life. But until then, I'll always have the memories of my video photos, my scarf, my airport tag T-shirt that's custom made to include the boarding pass details for my first trip that's on my desk right now, and I'll have the books. I'll have Iberia. I'll have Only in Spain to stir my imagination and dream of the day when I'm back on back on the peninsula again. It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of when, not if. Well, everyone, that's it for this week's video. I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you guys again next week. Good night, everybody.